is the Bax and Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Grant.
It's a great day to be a sports fan unless you live in Detroit because you guys got screwed last night.
How does it feel?
It is probably one of the greatest feelings.
How does it feel?
Oh, my goodness. That end zone is going to be inducted into the Seahawk Hall of Fame. They survived the Fail Mary. They survived now. I don't even know what they're going to call it. Something with gate, probably. Batgate.
Batgate, probably.
Batgate. Batman would be like, hey, that's mine. Can't do that. It's Batgate. I feel like he would. Batman, you can't do that. It's my gate. Anyway. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Bax and Grant Sports Show.
KJ Wright just like in a bat costume.
Yeah,
right. They're batting it out.
Cam Chancellor's got the black visor. He could probably be Batman.
Yeah, there
he was
you
the
go.
one that saved the game last night.
Yeah, he's got that he's got the visor and then he's got like his face mask is like so much.
There's so
guard
much
there.
He looks like a cool villain.
It's almost like a Ray Lewis status kind of thing.
And he's just ripped and he's just a scary man.
Just Falcon punching that ball.
He did. I wonder if he yelled that out before he got it. To
Falcon punch!
Calvin Johnson was like, what?
No!
Oh! Yeah.
That's mine! That was the game!
He probably would have yelled Seahawk punch, though, because Falcon just, that's trademark for Atlanta.
Or just yell boom. Really,
maybe he did
really
that
loud
also.
when he punches it.
I don't know. Well, we're going to talk about that Monday Night Football game today in just a little bit. We're also going to be speaking with Bleacher Report's David Kenyon in our second segment to help answer our fantasy football questions. We love speaking with him. We'll also have Simon Mitchell joining us later on in the program to speak about what is going on in England. Brendan Rodgers has been sacked at Liverpool. And the EPL weekend was a bit mad, so we'll have our resident Brit come in and help figure out some things for us as well. And
wait, so he was a quarterback, or he was?
Gosh. Okay, for 2 seconds for you, Grant. Here, when you get sacked, that means you've been fired.
Oh,
that's the British version of saying that you've been let go. You've been fired. Your apartment's being downsized. We're going in a different direction. We want different things. I think we should see other people.
I didn't know the British spake for it, so I was.
Yes. When a manager is sacked, that means he hath been fired. So now you know. Now you know. But
I didn't know that.
Now, the more you know. The more you know, Grant. And for all of you that are watching and listening, you know that you can find us Monday through Friday right here from 7 to 8 a.m. Central. You can also get us on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. So good morning to all of you watching us on Periscope. Great to see all of you. Thank you for all of you that are listening here on Spreaker. You can also get us on Sports Radio America, sportsradioamerica.com, live 365, and tune in from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time and on demand anytime on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com.
You can also find us on Facebook at the Bax and Grant Sports Show. We are also on Twitter and Instagram at BG Sports Show. Baxter is on Twitter at Baxter Colburn, and I am at Grant's Rant BGSS.
That's me. You said my name on the air.
I did.
I'm famous.
I've said your name on the air multiple times.
Well, today I felt like actually acknowledging it, so thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Whatever.
All right, Grant. Well, the final game of Week 4 NFL action is in the books, and I was able to catch the last quarter and a half, which is honestly about the only thing that was worth watching, to be totally honest, because there was fumbles, there was interception. Well, none of this interceptions. There were fumble returns for touchdowns. There was defensive stands. It was all kinds of great action that you'd love to see on Monday Night Football. And then I was like, wait, this is the Detroit Lions and Seahawks game that I'm watching. So why is it it's not supposed to be entertaining.
Right. It really went to show how much the Seattle Seahawks have been struggling as of late. And they're not the team that we've seen the last 2 years, especially with the offense. Yes, the defense holding the Lions' offense to 3 points. The defense scored more points for the Seahawks than the defense for the Lions.
Yeah.
There we go. I was like, that's wrong. The defense for the Lions scored more points than the offense for the Lions.
Yeah.
So, really great job by the Seahawks defense. I also appreciate it because
Lions defense?
The Seahawks defense, I am all over the place right now. I really appreciated the Seahawks defense only holding the Lions to the Lions' offense to 3 points because their kicker.
It's like, where are we going to go?
Connor. I played Connor in fantasy this week,
you
and
did, yes.
he had the Lions kicker, and Baldwin got the touchdown and quick 8 points. I'm like, okay,
boom,
because we were tied going into the game, and then the kicker only got an extra point and a field goal. I'm like, the win, the clutch. Thank you, Seahawks defense. But it was really a really good game by the Legion of Boom.
Yes.
You could really feel Cam Chancellor's presence being felt. So you have something to say about it.
I do, because I usually don't interrupt you unless it's really good. And I'm looking through this, and one of the people that recovered a fumble for the Lions last night, his name is Don Juan Carey. Don Juan is his name. And
is that funny?
That's funny. I mean, how many people do you know that are named Don Juan?
Not
Wasn't
many,
wasn't there a play or a book or something back in the day?
There's a...
I know it's Don Quixote for one of them, but Don Juan I thought was something. Anyway, the fact that his name...
There's a reference in Les Mis.
Maybe that's what it is then. I don't know. But
kind of, but it's not
How many people do you see that are named Don Juan?
I don't know. I feel like you're getting way too interested in this guy's name.
I just thought it was interesting. I was like, Don Juan Carey, okay.
No, I think you need to go back to sleep. I think that's what needs to happen.
I'm fine. I went to sleep as soon as Calvin Johnson fumbled the ball last night. I was like, all right, this game's over.
You know, real people still have to do school and stuff and study for tests after football. Oh, it's horrible.
Should have studied during it.
No, because I don't get anything done. I'm just like, football, only football. And I don't get any studying done because I'm just too interested.
I understand that. What did bother me, though, about the game last night, Grant, was the fact that Russell Wilson fumbled twice last night, and he did lose both fumbles as well. I thought that he would have understood by this point in his career how to take care of the ball better, and that was not the case.
Yeah, one went back for a touchdown.
Yeah, and they almost did it twice, because that we saw on the drive before that the Lions tackled Wilson. They stripped the ball kind of, but they said that he was down by contact, and they tried to... I don't know if it was Wilson or if it was the running back. I forget who it was.
No, it was...
Was it Wilson?
Wilson.
But he was down, although the ball kind of came out once he was down, and they tried to recover and take it back. And then the next drive, then we saw an actual fumble happen, and then they got it and go.
Well, yeah, the first fumble, he was strip-sacked, and it was a fumble, and then the Seahawks player, I don't know who recovered it, the Seahawks player went and dove on the ball, but Russell Wilson's legs were laying on top of him.
That's right.
So that's why they couldn't run it back for a touchdown.
Yeah. So if you are a Seattle fan, you're happy. You're at 2-2. I mean, you might not be happy because, let's be honest, your team played pretty terrible last night.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you're a fan of either team, and that continues to reassure me that Seattle's offense without Marshawn Lynch, even sometimes with Marshawn Lynch, and I know he's been battling injury this season, so you can take it for what it is, but take out Marshawn Lynch out of the picture, Seattle's offense is not intimidating at all.
Well, when has its offense been intimidating?
When Marshawn Lynch is playing at full strength.
But is it intimidating even at that? Or is it just more the Seattle Seahawks' reputation has been from that defense? Because that's where I feel like it's the Legion
Seattle
of Boom.
only has a reputation because of their defense. Yes.
Exactly. They won that Super Bowl 2 years ago because of their defense.
And you can't always assume that your defense is going to be the one that's going to put the ball in the end zone. You can't exactly expect for a pick six or a fumble to go. So if the offense can't turn around and say, oh, yeah, we'll throw a touchdown, we'll run the ball in, whatever, then it's not going to happen.
Take the Packer game, for example, when they played the Green Bay Packers. A great team, a high-caliber team. A team that, if they make the playoffs, that's who they would see. And it was a great test to see how their offense would hold, even though the Packers' defense isn't that great. And the Packers' defense, which I think they're emerging to be better than what people think.
They're starting to get better,
The Packers' defense shut the offense down pretty much. They had no problem handling Marshawn Lynch or Russell Wilson. They did have a little bit of trouble with his scrambling ability later in the game. But anyway, the defense held them well, and the offense struggled, and the defense for the Seahawks actually struggled. So if the defense for the Seattle Seahawks struggle, it's going to be a long game for them. It's going to be a really long game for them.
Yeah. No, I think we need to take a moment now, though, and mention the end of the game, Grant, because this is what's got so many people fired up. For those of you that didn't get a chance to watch the game last night, Detroit was driving. They were down 10-13. I honestly thought they were going to do it.
I thought they were going to win.
There were some great plays by the offense that they were just cruising down the field. I was like, this might actually happen. Then there's a pass that's completed to Calvin Johnson. I think he caught it at like the 5-yard line. And I'm like, Calvin Johnson's got 5 yards to go. He's got one defender in front of him. He's going to win this battle. All of a sudden, Seattle has 2 other guys that jump on him. Is just before Calvin Johnson is about to cross the goal line. Cam Chancellor, as we mentioned earlier, comes across, punches the ball out of Johnson's hands. The ball rolls into the end zone. KJ Wright taps it, basically.
And it was just before he broke the plate.
Yeah,
too.
It was just...
He was like
an inch
Yeah, he was
doing it, basically.
He was right next to the plane. I was like, oh, no.
Yeah, so then KJ Wright ends up batting the ball, and it goes out of the back of the end zone, which means that the ball is turned over. Then Seattle was to get the ball at their own 20-yard line.
So what happened, so the ball was punched down, and it bounced into the end zone. It was kind of near the back, and KJ Wright was over there, and he was just kind of looking at it, and he was standing there by himself, and he's like, okay, let's end this, just batted it out.
Yeah.
He was just kind of chilling and kind of looked like he didn't know what to do for a second.
Yeah.
He's like, football, what do I do? What do I do? Don't screw up. Don't do the wrong thing. And it was you could see
did.
And then he was just like, oh, okay, we'll just do this. And then when I first saw it, I'm like, can you do that?
No, that's the end.
That's like kicking it, right? I'm like, I didn't think you could do that. But the ref was right there. He was right there watching him. And he didn't throw a flag. So I'm like, all right, I guess that's fine.
The official ruling on it should have been a illegal bat for hitting the ball out of bounds in the end zone. And then the NFL Vice President of Officiating, Dean Blandino, told NFL Network that the penalty should have been given, flag should have been thrown, and it should have been Detroit's ball, first and goal at the 1-yard line. No flags were thrown. Nothing happened. Russell Wilson then goes down that next play, drops a 50-yard bomb to Jermaine Kearse on 3rd down. Detroit's out.
Well, not the next play, but
after
the same
2
drive.
plays, same drive. They ended up completing the pass. They get the first down. Detroit's out of timeouts. Knee down. Everybody go home. People in Seattle are saying, we're the best team in the world. Just stop.
They're getting worse than Dallas at some points. There's a Legion of Boom, and I'm like, yeah, but your offense sucks. And you're honestly,
take away the Legion of Boom. Even just take away Richard Sherman or even, we saw how poorly they played without Cam Chancellor.
Right, exactly. And if just one player does that to your defense, how good of a team are you really? Look, I always use this example, and I know I'm awful, and I know I'm a biased Packers fan, and I know I need to stop, but I don't care. Just look at the 2010 Packers, and look how many injuries they sustained that year. They won the Super Bowl on their second string. So you need to have depth on your football team. And if you don't have depth on your football team, you're not a good football team. Because injuries do happen in this game. So you need to move on for them. Yeah, Cam Chancellor is your starting safety, and yeah, he's one of your better players, and yeah, he's holding out. Yes. But that shouldn't make your defense. You shouldn't make that all about your defense.
No, the defense is a unit. It's not based off of one player. So, all right, we're going to go to a break. We'll see what our fantasy expert David Kenyon thought about the performance last night, and if there's any players this upcoming week we need to avoid, and it's also a big bye week as well. So find out who he thinks is going to be the hot and cold players this upcoming week. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Grant.
Good morning, everybody. How are you? It's great to have you back here on the Bax and Grant Sports Show as we continue to roll along. We have a great set of shows still upcoming for you this week. We'll be speaking with a few different people. We'll have, on Friday, Grant, a good friend of ours, Anthony Nachreiner, will be calling from Tampa, Florida, to talk about the situation with Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Anthony is an on-air radio host down in the Tampa area, and he knows the Buccaneers better than most of us do. And I was like, Anthony, I need you to come talk about Jameis Winston. He's like, do I have to? I was like,
I don't want to.
It's a painful thing. He's like, I forget exactly the phrasing he used. He's like, I'd be happy to talk about the canon. I forget what it was, but he basically dissed the Buccaneers by using a canon reference. I was like, okay, sure. He's like, I'll do it. So we'll have him here with us on Friday. Nate Alberts of the Door County News Daily will be with us tomorrow, talking about what happened with the Milwaukee Brewers. It was a bit of a hot mess for them this season, so make sure to catch that interview. And then Corey Plath will be joining us on Friday as well to talk about USA versus Mexico on the Confederations Cup playoff game. You're not going to want to miss that. And then we'll also have some other exciting special things dished in, as we always do on the Bax and Grant Sports Show. We do have, it's special. I mean, he's supposed to be on, but it's always special when David Kenyon gets to join the show. So David Kenyon of Bleacher Report, our fantasy football guru and the encyclopedia of all things football. Good morning, David. How are you, sir?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, we're glad to have you back. And you claimed your first victory in the Bax and Grant Sports Show Fantasy Football League this week, so I'm sure your management must be happy. Your job's probably not in jeopardy at this moment. You know, you recovered after an 0-3 start. You're 1-3. How do you
handle really decent victory too?
He did. He won. What was it? 102 to 39. I think
103 to 39. Yeah, something crazy like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to feel good as a coach, David, doesn't it?
Well, it's really nice to see hard work come together. Guys had a good week of practice, best week of practice all year, actually.
That's good. I mean, I heard when you practice well, you play hard, so that's good to hear. So I appreciate your time today, Coach. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Well, David, this last week there were several noticeable standouts in the fantasy football world. Can you let us know, and some of those maybe that had them on their team or maybe didn't and should have started them, but there was a few top performers this week. Can you highlight some of those for us?
Biggest one of the week for the second straight week was Devontae Freeman, the running back for Atlanta. Houston decided that they didn't want to stop inside zone running plays, and he scored 3 times on them, pretty much untouched on every one. And then another nice surprise, he was kind of my sleeper of the season, but he got hurt, so he's kind of been up and down. Chris Ivory, he ran for 166 yards and a touchdown against the Dolphins. I think I saw he had like 9 10-yard carries, which is just insane.
Yeah, he was doing really well against the Dolphins.
How often does that happen?
I watched that game, and he was just going ham, especially towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I don't know how often that happens, but I cannot imagine it's often because that's impressive.
No kidding. Holy cow.
The biggest surprise of the week, which nearly won me a different fantasy game, just for the laughs, I ended up losing by 1, but it was a bad week overall, except for Cairo Santos, the kicker from the Chiefs, the second highest scorer in standard scoring leads of the weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Which is insane.
Did he get 31 points this week?
He got
27.
Or 27.
He had 7 field goals. He was 7 for 7. He scored 21 actual points.
I think Andy Reid knew that a lot of fantasy owners needed the points, so he's like, you know what? We've already lost this game, so you know what? Go on, get out there, Santos.
Have fun.
Kick one. Go ahead.
Well, I think to the real-life portion of football, I love that move because it's math. They were down 18. You can't score 2 touchdowns and get 2-point conversions and get 18. You have to get to 16 or below anyway. And so, honestly, Kansas City had done nothing, so what were they going to do on that 4th and 10? Send your kicker out, get the points, get within 2 scores, and pray. Anyway.
That's very true. I mean, that's very true. But, yeah, when I found out that Santos drop that many points in a game, I was like, well, okay. I mean, my leading scorer on my fantasy team this week was my kicker from Arizona. He got me 17, so I was like, all right, well, what are you going to do? But sometimes I have a soft spot in my heart when my kicker scores a lot of points, as a former kicker. And I know, David, you were a kicker once upon a time also.
And there was also that kicker at the place kicker. Now I'm forgetting who he played for, but his team's punter got injured.
Was it the Saints?
Yeah, it was the Saints. The Saints punter got injured mid-game when the place kicker came in there and punted the ball like a 50-plus yard punt. So I was like, that's notch one for kickers. Like, go you guys. And then the Seahawks punter had last night a 60-plus yard punt.
That.
It was a booming kick. So kickers being relevant this week.
Woo!
Go Kickers.
Loving
They're
it.
people too.
Yeah, punters are people too. That's the shirt.
Well, punters and kickers.
Kickers are more relevant than punters.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, David, so this upcoming week, there are 4 different teams that are on bye weeks: the Carolina Panthers, the Miami Dolphins, the Minnesota Vikings, and New York Jets. Out of those teams, some people will probably be upset that if they have Adrian Peterson on their team, he'll have to sit. Maybe Cam Newton. The Jets' defense potentially, but is there really anybody else out of those 4 teams that is going to be detrimental to a team's possible success this week?
If you're looking at your 10 or 12 standard team leagues, you might be seeing Mike Wallace as an issue, just depending on the depth of that player's team.
Sure.
Like, Grant, you have Mike Wallace, don't you?
No.
I thought you did.
I dropped him.
Oh, you did drop him?
Yeah,
Oh.
I had to drop him. I had to make space because he was, of course, the week I drop him, he goes ham, but he was getting me like less than 5 points every week, and I was
it's a smart
sick.
move, I guess.
I was sick of dealing with it because it was just, with the whole Teddy Bridgewater being inconsistent and Adrian Peterson being most of the offense.
Sure. I understand that. Okay, so Mike Wallace. Somebody mentioned on Periscope Greg Olsen as well, David. Is that someone that people will miss a lot?
Yes, absolutely. Greg Olsen, he was the next one I was going to say, actually.
Okay.
He's one of the top 5 tight ends just because Carolina has no weapons otherwise. They are just lacking at the receiver position so bad, and people wanted to say Devin Funchess was going to explode. Well, no, he's a rookie, and last year's rookie class was an anomaly of having that many big-time performers right away, Odell Beckham, Mike Evans, and so on. But then otherwise, the New York Jets, that whole team, really, I love that team's fantasy outlook. Brandon Marshall had like 147 yards, I think, last week. Eric Decker had 40 yards and a touchdown. Chris Ivory had those 166 and a touchdown. The Jets are a sneaky good offensive play.
Yeah, that's, I think, one thing that people going into the season were probably like, wait, the Jets are supposed to be kind of good? I think that Ryan Fitzpatrick, now that they've figured out their quarterback situation for now, I feel that, you mentioned it a few weeks ago too, that Ryan Fitzpatrick is turning a lot of heads, and is he, I don't necessarily know if he's someone you want to bank on every week to be your starting quarterback in fantasy, unless you've changed your mind on that one.
Oh, no, I'm still not plugging Ryan Fitzpatrick in. You can get better options. And the other thing, too, with Fitzpatrick is they have Ivory, and they're not afraid to run him 25, 30 times a game.
And we've seen that.
And you look at someone like Phillip Rivers, even Ryan Tannehill, because the Dolphins are so bad, but they refuse to use Lamar Miller, it seems. So, I mean, Tannehill's not playing that well, but he's still a good fantasy quarterback, because fantasy doesn't care about wins and losses.
That's very true, yeah. Question for you. So it seems to be the last few weeks that anytime a team has been playing either Jacksonville or Tampa Bay, that those are the teams to load up on in terms of guys going against them. Jacksonville and Tampa Bay play each other this week, so it's kind of the lesser of two evils. I would assume Jacksonville is semi-ish kind of favored in this game, or is that a little outlandish to feel? And if there's any fantasy value by trying to get anybody like an Allen Hurns or Blake Bortles or TJ Yeldon?
I would feel confident with Allen Robinson and Allen Hurns, the Jacksonville receivers. Other than that, I mean, maybe Bortles, because Tampa Bay's defense isn't that good.
Sure.
I want I want Jameis Winston to stop throwing in interceptions.
That would be nice.
I'm not sure that's going to happen. But Tampa Bay is actually favored in this game. So I think you're looking at Doug Martin, the running back, as a solid play.
Okay.
And it seems Vincent Jackson has a small edge over Mike Evans right now. But we'll see how that happens against the Jacksonville defense.
Mm-hmm.
And if Evans can have his first really good game of the season.
Okay, fair enough. One other thing that I know some folks have been wondering about is what to do with Marcus Mariota now that he had his bye week. Now he's back again. We realize he's not a starter in most teams, but he could be a streamer like you mentioned in the beginning of the season. Would you stream? I mean, looking at some of the quarterbacks that are available, at least in the Baxter Grant Sports Show League, and I feel like they're probably available in most leagues. You've got Blake Bortles, Marcus Mariota, Kirk Cousins, and Nick Foles, or even Sam Bradford for that matter too. Do you bother streaming any of those guys this week at all, or should teams just kind of stick with who they've got?
Well, at this point of the season, there's probably not many of those waiver guys available in a majority of the leagues. I really am close to saying Marcus Mariota is a starting quarterback in fantasy.
Ooh.
If you don't want to draft one early, if you don't want to, I don't know. It's hard because he's about to play Buffalo.
Yes.
And I'm not sure you want to play him against Buffalo. But if he gets another 18-point game, you don't need a superstar quarterback. You can trade him for 2 starters.
That's true, actually. That's very true. Be like, hey, look, I've got Mariota on my team. I think consistency is the key for any team's quarterback, especially in fantasy. If you can average 15-plus points a week with your fantasy quarterback, I feel like most owners would take that in a heartbeat, saying, oh, sure, that's completely fine with me.
Definitely. And Mariota hasn't even run yet.
That's the scary part about it.
He's run for 25 yards all season. He's thrown 8 touchdowns.
Wow.
Now, David, quick question for you. Todd Gurley this last week, he demolished he got 15 points last, so he got like 140 yards or 150, something like that. Yeah, he got 150 yards this last week. He didn't do well his first game. His second game was last week. He absolutely demolishes. This week, he plays the Green Bay Packers. Do you think he's going to put up maybe not the same numbers, especially with seeing how surprisingly well, the Green Bay's run defense has been when they faced pretty strong run offenses? So do you think that Todd Gurley will be a decent choice going into this week, or is this a week that he might not do as well?
The Green Bay defense is really confusing.
Yeah, you're telling us.
Yeah. They give up like 6 yards a carry to Matt Forte. And then they shut down Marshawn Lynch. And then Jamal Charles just did his damage close, which is important. But, I mean, it was like 3 yards a carry. And then San Francisco, we all knew that was going to be a pretty rough game. But I think my gut says Gurley is a start.
Okay.
And it's just tough because he did so much damage against Arizona, and he did it all in one half. He had like 5 carries for -3 yards, then ripped off a 23-yard run, and then different story.
Right. Well, I think what I'm thinking, because I do have him on my team, but I'm thinking, he's not going to do as well. But then you look, you think the Arizona defense, look, 2 weeks ago, they had 2 pick sixes. The defense was absolutely on fire. And then you go in thinking last week, oh, Todd Gurley's not going to do anything up against Arizona. And then Arizona just lays an egg against him, and he just goes crazy. But I don't think he's going to get the same amount of numbers as people might be expecting.
But then at the same time, we've seen Green Bay's defense in the past give up these big games to
True.
running backs like Gurley. Just because of, they're riding a great streak. Oh, everybody should be just fine, no problem. And then suddenly it's like, oh, Green Bay's defense forgot how to stop and how to tackle.
St. Louis as well. They just have a habit of being weird. When I wrote up the Week 4 slate and I had the underrated games, my number one underrated game was the Rams and Cardinals because everybody was like, oh, Cardinals, they're doing great. They are. I love the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
But the Rams are weird.
Yeah, we were talking about it yesterday. I said that the Rams were a giant killer, and the Baxter was like, well, only sometimes, because they beat teams like the Cardinals, but then they turn around and lose to teams like the Redskins.
Yeah, and exactly. So do you rely on the Rams as a team? No, but Todd Gurley is their number one back. Officially, he had 19 carries and no one else had more than 2. So you just stick with him now.
That's very true. All right, well, before we let you go, David, any players that people want to keep in mind, either for fantasy like leagues or daily fantasy this upcoming week?
Well, just for the season-long leagues in general, I haven't looked at the DFS slate pricing yet. I usually do that this afternoon. Arian Foster's back. If you had him on your bench, you can plug him in. He played a little bit last week, and then they kept him off after right tackle caused a fumble, which was weird.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. The guy, his own team batted it out of his hands, right?
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Yeah, that was that one.
Yep, and then Atlanta returned it for a touchdown, and then it was 28-0, and they were like, you know what, Foster, we're not going to bang you up anymore.
Probably a good idea.
Justin Forsett, Ravens running back, if you took him in the probably third or fourth round, you're like, oh, when is this going to happen? They finally started running him on stretch plays. That would be the Mark Trestman effect, not using his running backs properly.
Yeah.
Baltimore got their full dose of it, and then methinks John Harbaugh had a word with Trestman, and Forsett ran for 150 yards last week and then gets Cleveland this week. So don't worry about him. If you're like me, you put him on your bench just because, had another option.
Why not? Why not at all?
Go ahead and plug him back in. Carlos Williams is stepping in for LaShawn McCoy for the next couple of weeks. He's probably hot off the waiver wire last week, but if he's still there, you go get him as soon as possible. Other than that, I think it's just the plug your stars in and play.
And hope for the best.
Your bye weeks and go. There's really no breakout star in my mind. I like pretty much everyone this week. I just don't like Melvin Gordon and the trend he's going. That's the biggest one.
Yeah,
the Wisconsin curse, as I like to call it.
It continues to roll on. Oh, gosh. All right, well, David, thank you for your time today. We appreciate it. We'll speak with you again on Thursday as we look forward to the upcoming week of NFL action. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll be speaking with you again later in the week.
All right, you got it.
Thanks, man. David Kenyon of Bleacher Report, the football encyclopedia, as we call him. What a great guy. Love having him on the show.
It's always good to talk with him. He's so smart.
He is. He's a very smart
and
lad.
what did we come up with him the other day? There was something else, too. Instead of the encyclopedia, he was one other thing.
Oh, gosh.
It was hilarious.
I don't remember.
Now I forgot what it was.
You'll have to think about it and let us know.
We'll have to go back. We'll check the records.
We will. We'll check the stats. All right, we're going to be right back. When we come back, we're going to talk about a few things that Grant and I have learned about the NFL after 4 weeks. Some things are surprising. Some things, we should have just known that by now. We'll be right back. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Grant.
All right, Grant. Well, we need to talk about a few things, Grant. Do you know what we need to talk about?
What do we need to talk about?
Well, first of all, we need to talk about the fact you need to put on some deodorant. No, that's not true. Well, maybe it is. I don't know.
I put on deodorant this morning.
Fine. No, that's fine then. That's not actually.
I put on deodorant every morning. What's wrong with you?
Oh, I was trying to make it seem like it was way more serious than it actually is.
Yeah, I'm actually disgusting.
No, all right. Well, we need to talk about a few things that we've learned in the NFL after 4 weeks of play. I've got my list, Grant. You've got some of the things on your list as well.
Yep.
Would you like to start? Would you like me to start?
Sure, I can start. I can start with the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah.
And what we learned about the Indianapolis Colts is that they're actually terrible. This team is actually not good. Andrew Luck, probably one of the more overhyped quarterbacks, besides maybe you could argue Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota at this point. But, I mean,
Mariota's having a better year than Luck right now.
Yeah, honestly, that's what's going on. Andrew Luck is having a terrible season, and it's just kind of painful, especially from a fantasy standpoint, just looking at how bad they are. But then, still, they're first in the AFC South. So, more things that we learned. Well, I guess we always knew this, but the AFC South is still bad.
Mm-hmm.
The AFC South is still horrible. You have the Colts at 2-2. You have the Tennessee Titans. They just had their bye week. They're at 1-2. Jacksonville Jaguars 1-3, and then you have the Houston Texans at 1-3 as well. All of those teams are just doing horrible this year.
Yeah, I'd agree with you on that one. All right, any others for your list? I've got several on my list. So.
We'll alternate. You go.
Well, you did two. I'll do two quickly. One of the first ones I want to talk about is the amount of surprising 4-0 teams. Not necessarily the amount of them, but who they are. Looking at Carolina, looking at Atlanta, Green Bay were not terribly surprised. There was the game against Seattle that I felt most folks said it could have gone either way. Let's be just totally honest about it.
But after seeing how Seattle played, it might have been more Green Bay that more people might have thought.
Yep, I agree with you on that one. I mean, New England's undefeated. Okay, not a big deal. Cincinnati, they're undefeated. And then Denver's undefeated as well. Denver, I feel like we've mentioned this several times, out of all the undefeated teams, probably deserves it the least because of how poorly they've played.
Definitely.
Peyton Manning hasn't played very well also. That's not one of the things I've learned. I just learned that out of the undefeated teams, it's not necessarily all about who you've got at quarterback. It's all about your defense right now because defenses have really stepped up right now.
They definitely have.
Another one that I've learned is that don't always believe that the number one overall pick in the NFL is going to be as good as people say he is because, that usually ends up not being the case.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I normally never believe that.
I've learned that Marcus Mariota, he's thrown 8 touchdowns in 3 games, is seeming to have a better concept of what NFL life is like. Jameis Winston has already thrown multiple pick sixes. He's thrown multiple interceptions. Tampa Bay is terrible, and they're last in their division right now.
Yeah, no, and I have 2 as well. The New York Giants, and this might be something that you learned, but the New York Giants actually aren't that horrible of a team. The New York Giants could be 4-0 right now if they learned how to close out the fourth quarter. They gave up their first 2 games. They played the Cowboys They played the Cowboys week 1, let the Cowboys back into that game, and the New York Giants are actually not that bad of a team. Then switching over to the AFC East, the AFC East as a whole, minus the New England Patriots, have been a little bit of a surprise to me. New England not chalked 3-0, but the New York Jets 3-1. That's something new. Didn't know that the New York Jets were going to be a 3-1 team. If you would have told me that the Jets would start the season 3-1, I would have called you crazy. Buffalo Bills, they're not doing that bad as well. They lost to New England in a close game. Yes, they had a bad week last week, but the game against New England, that's one of their losses. Not too bad. And then also with 2 wins, pretty comparable. And I thought the Miami Dolphins were going to be of some – their defense was going to produce something. Their defense has had 1 sack, and it's not from their defensive line. So Ndamukong Suh, paying $100+ million for, hasn't produced.
Not the best idea.
No, not really. Hasn't produced anything. A little bit, possibly you could have said overhyped for the Miami Dolphins, but 1-3 right now, and not really living up to their potential.
All right, some of the other ones that I've got that we are going over the NFL of what we've learned after 4 weeks of watching NFL football. One thing I've learned, Grant, is that the Seattle Seahawks are not as good as people thought they were going to be coming into this season. Let's be honest. Adding Jimmy Graham has just put another tall body on the field.
Yeah,
they have not seen the production from him at all.
He looks confused out there.
He really does. He's like, wait, why is Drew Brees not throwing me the ball? Why am I not getting targeted on every single play?
Well, there was one play last night where he ran for a streak route, and he was wide open in the field, and Russell Wilson didn't throw it to him because he was already in a scramble. And I'm like, that can go a couple ways. I can be like, see, Russell Wilson just needs to stop worrying about scrambling, worrying about throwing the ball, or Jimmy Graham needs to learn that he needs to block on those plays and not run down the field.
Yes, and that's one thing that Jimmy Graham has been faltered for in the past is his lack of blocking, and he said he has worked on it in the offseason, but I still have not been completely sold by what they're putting down. And we saw that with Cam Chancellor's holdout. It doesn't look like Seattle as a whole is really happy with what's going on.
No.
There's a lot of, they're third in the division right now, but take that for what it is. It's only been 4 games. Another thing that I've learned is that we were guilty of this, that the Vikings were way too overhyped to coming into the season. Yes, they're 2-2 right now, but I think we were expecting a lot more. I think we were expecting at least a 3-1 Vikings team by this point in the season.
I'm disagreeing with you on this.
Okay.
I think 2-2, that's 500. I think we said they're going to finish the season at 10-6 probably, maybe 11-5, maybe 11-5 is a little bit too much, maybe 10-6 is too much. But just because they're 2-2 does not mean their season is over. It not means they're a bad team. They had a bad week 1, but then they come out with 2 straight wins, and then they lose last week to a 4-0. Yes, we think they're the least 4-0 team, but they're still 4-0 Denver Broncos team, and only by 3 points. So I'm not saying that this team is good. I still think, though, that they are playoff potential, that they could still possibly grab one of the wild card spots.
Fair enough.
Because if you look at the teams, you have Dallas right now 2-2, and New York 2-2, and Washington Redskins 2-2. So that division's going to be interesting.
Yes.
Then you have the Packers on top.
And I think the thing that is continuing to be an issue, though, for Minnesota is that their offensive line has had a hard time blocking.
Yes.
Adrian Peterson does lead the NFL right now with 372 rushing yards, but he had to do a lot of that by breaking tackles. The offensive line has not been able to block, and we've seen Teddy Bridgewater, he's been on his butt more than he's been standing up throwing passes. He's only thrown 2 touchdowns and thrown 2 interceptions already this season.
But they have a bye week, I believe, going into next week, and I think they're in a good spot right now.
Sure.
If I'm the Vikings organization and you've had to rebuild your offensive line, they've just drafted a bunch of people.
Yes.
So they basically just drafted linemen. That's all they did in the draft. And they're rebuilding that part of the team, and they're working on their young defense, who's been doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been shut down, but they've been pretty good. Then you have to work on Teddy Bridgewater. You have to work on him getting protection. He's still young. He's still learning. He's not blowing people's minds like an Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, but he's putting up decent numbers. He's not throwing picks left and right. He has 2 touchdowns for 2 interceptions.
That's not great numbers.
It's not great, but it's not horrible.
It could be a lot better. Marcus Mariota's doing a lot more with a lot less.
I'm not saying he's the best quarterback, but I'm saying that he's not bad.
I understand
He's not
that.
making the team suffer. And then, of course, you have Adrian Peterson.
Of course.
So I'm actually going to disagree with you.
Okay.
That
I think the Vikings were overhyped personally. So do you have anything else to add? If not, I have a few more on my list.
I have one.
Go right ahead.
We have learned that Chip Kelly may not be as of genius as we thought he might be this offseason.
Yeah?
We were all freaking out like, oh my gosh, if this works, Chip Kelly is a genius. Well, it's not working. The Philadelphia Eagles right now are 1-3. They just look lost. The Legion of Zoom is the Legion of Slug. I don't know what you want to call it. They're not doing well.
Close enough.
And we also learned, I'll make this too, that I think you can start to say that DeMarco Murray was more the Dallas Cowboys offensive line than he is actual talent.
Mm-hmm.
Because you look when DeMarco Murray was in last week, and week 1 and week 2, he did pretty bad. I think he even got negative yards or very few yards week 2. Then you have Ryan Matthews coming in, week 3, drops over 100 yards. and just does way better than DeMarco Murray has done in combined 3 games.
Yeah, so it's if you're an Eagle running back, you really I think it's Russian roulette every week. You're like, all right, which one of us is going to have a good game this week? Let's spin a wheel. Darian, you're going to be the running back this week. DeMarco, you might have a good week this week. Yeah, it's so hard to tell with the Eagles running backs and just the production as a whole. And I think I would agree with you on that one, that the team has just not played good at all this season.
And they should have got rid of Nick Foles. I think that's one thing that they're learning rather quickly as well.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with you on that one. All right, one other thing I want to add fast before we jump to a break on what we've learned about the NFL after 4 weeks. Well, 2 things. One, the Cleveland Browns, they still don't have a quarterback. They still don't know what they're doing with the team. Yep. Johnny Manziel, Josh McCown, figure it out. Figure it out.
Put Manziel in.
Put Johnny in. Let the man play. And number 2, J.J. Watt, we love you, but leave.
Yes,
leave Houston
honestly,
now. Pack your bags. Go find a new team. Demand a trade.
That
do
doesn't
something.
suck too hard.
Get out. And I wish I had more time to talk about this, but one other thing that surprised me, the lack of defending for Jay Cutler. People are saying he's not as bad as people think he is. People think that I've seen a lot of defending of Jay Cutler this year, which surprised me a little bit.
They're just so bad because of how much they're...
Yeah, but usually the Jay Cutler haters are horrible, but
yeah, it's true.
There's been a lot of defenders of Jay Cutler this year.
Because he's actually worked on his game, and he doesn't look too bad.
Yeah. All right, we'll be right back. This is the Bax and Grant Sports Show. Welcome back to the Bax and Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I am Bax.
And this is Grant.
All right, Grant, before you have to leave, because you have to go do that whole college thing, because you always duck out a little early on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Yeah, I got to take a test, too.
Tests. Don't miss that at all.
Gotta remember my scales and my intervals. It's a music class.
Of course. That's a wonderful thing.
Not singing, that's oral skills.
Well.
This is music theory.
Okay. Well, one thing we want to talk about before we let you go is that the Chicago Bears have reportedly made headlines this week after saying that they would be fine with trading away Matt Forte for the right offer. In quotes.
And not even just Matt Forte, their whole team.
They
have said that
they're going to just trade the whole team. Maybe they should move them to Los Angeles.
They said that if you are interested in any player, they will trade him.
Wow.
They are. John Fox is ready just to be done. He is, and I think he's doing a really good job this season with the Bears. I think that the Bears could have been blown out 50-plus points scored on him every single game if John Fox doesn't go in there and actually puts a really good game plan. They came pretty close to beating the Packers, and they won last week. So they actually they're still pretty bad, but sure. I don't think they're the worst team in the NFL, which some people are saying. But yes, Chicago has come out and said their whole team is up for auction pretty much. They're just waiting for the right price.
He wants to auction himself off as well and get out of there.
And no, he just got there. I think he's going to do good. I think he's going to do good things.
Maybe he's ready to go out, though.
I think he's doing pretty good things in Chicago right now. Chicago has a bright future, which is scary. So talking about Matt Forte and his trade possibility.
Yes, well, he's second in the NFL with rushing. He's 367 total yards.
But
so that's good.
Yes, he has that. I'm not saying he's bad by any means. He is one of the best running backs and one of the more underrated running backs, especially with a team like the Bears and putting up numbers like that. But it is also because he gets so many touches because he is their offense. But anyway, Matt Forte is in his 8th season right now as a running back. That's pretty old for a running back. You are not going to get many seasons out of him. And I think Matt Forte is one of those players where he will only work in Chicago or maybe another team or somewhere like that. But he's one of those players, I think, that just he fits in Chicago. He works in Chicago.
He does.
And if he goes somewhere else, I don't think he's going to do as well.
Well, I mean, the soon as Forte rumors even emerged, Dallas immediately was like, me, choose us, pick us, because they are not thrilled with their running back situation. They lost DeMarco Murray, and they're like, crap, we don't have a good running back anymore. And, oh, wait, maybe he wasn't as good as, with the offensive line. But you put Matt Forte with maybe that Dallas line, that'd be a good mix. But even Matt Forte's never won a Super Bowl, so you have to think that maybe if he does go somewhere, that he's going to want to go somewhere that he might be able to contend.
Do you think Dallas is going to be
No, I'm just saying that Dallas has got a better chance of contending once Ramon Bryant comes back than the Bears do.
True.
So if he does get traded, if he does have any say at all, he might look around and say, hey, can I go over there? Can I go somewhere that might actually be kind of good?
Yeah, but honestly, even though I hate him in Chicago, I think he just does better in Chicago. But yeah, if you want to win a championship, you're not going to win it in Chicago. Your best chance was 5 seasons ago or whenever they were bigger.
Yeah, or back when they had Brandon Marshall and everybody. That
right,
was on
or when they made it to the
team.
NFC Championship game 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're good chance. The Bears, Matt Forte's chances with winning a Super Bowl with the Bears are behind him. So if he wants to do that, he should move on. But he is only 29 years old, but for a running back, and especially with how hard-hitting sometimes Matt Forte needs to be and how many touches he gets, he could be fatigued out pretty soon here. You never know. And an injury is just right around the corner to end the season because running backs, they don't have as long as seasons as Charles Woodson. I did not know he's in his 18th season.
Yeah, he's been around
He's
for
in his
long
18th
time.
season. I did not know that.
The man keeps himself in great shape. Yeah, he's had a few injuries, but he's done a fantastic
That's like
job.
better than a quarterback that just sits in the pocket and throws a football.
Yeah, Charles is hitting people.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about Adam Vinatieri. He's in his 40s, but he's a kicker. So
yeah,
he's been kicking for 20-some years.
He just needs to just do a leg press, and that's
basically.
it.
And some of those kickers are pretty jacked. You have to have a really strong core to be a kicker, too, actually.
Okay.
It helps. It's the direction. It's a whole science behind it.
Yeah, Charles Woodson now, he actually broke into the top 10 list for most interceptions with 61 on his career.
Wow.
So congratulations to him.
Way to go,
so
Charles.
one of the best safeties in all of NFL history. So he was a great Green Bay Packer, won a ring with Green Bay. Unfortunately, broke his collarbone in that game, but still great respect for the man. He's a great football player.
Absolutely. Oh, Grant, you got to take off. I appreciate you taking the time today, man, being on the show. We will speak with you again tomorrow.
Thank you. See you guys all tomorrow.
All right, we'll be right back with Simon Mitchell. Don't miss it. This is the Baxter Grant Sports Show. Welcome back to the Baxter Grant Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. Grant was here, but he had to take off, go to class like he normally does on Tuesdays and Thursdays for the last little part of the show, which usually means that I get to talk soccer when he's gone, so that way I can satisfy the soccer needs that are flowing through my body. But usually I talk about it, by myself, and it's not as quite as exciting or engaging. So I thought that why not bring in the man, Simon Mitchell, from across the pond, straight from Norwich. Good morning, Simon. How are you, sir?
Yeah, morning, Grant. Bax. I do it every time, don't I?
It's okay. I understand. Grant is obviously your favorite. I understand.
No, never. No. I have no favourites, but I think I've just spent the last 10 minutes listening to Grant going on about the NFL, and it's kind of made me just think, I've got to listen to this guy. He seems to know what he's talking about.
He does, yeah. He's got a very strong understanding of what's going on in the league, and very opinionated as well, which is why we love him.
I will just point out, though, that I've just moved ahead of you in the Pigskin Pick'em League.
I noticed that. Yeah, you're doing fairly well. I struggled this last week with some of my picks on ESPN's Pigskin Pick'em, and I need to rebound. Need a good week this week. But let's be honest, some of the games that finished the way they did, no one really thought they were going to go that way.
Apart from me.
Apart from you, of course, because you know everything. So I understand that. Oh, goodness. All right, well, Simon, one of the things we need to talk about immediately is the vacancy. Well, it's been filled by an interim, at least at the moment, is Liverpool. They have fired Brendan Rodgers, or sacked, to be politically correct. They have sacked Brendan Rodgers as their manager and are now looking to possibly fill the shoes with Jurgen Klopp, or I've heard multiple other names that have continued to roll through the team. But as someone that knows the Premier League fairly well, did this move by Liverpool come as a surprise to you, or was it a fairly, okay, this is about time it happened move for you?
No, there's no surprise at all. Brendan Rodgers, he's a very divisive character. The great thing with Brendan Rodgers is that he's a young manager who did well at a couple of clubs, but he's also done quite poorly at a couple of clubs in his history as well. But at Liverpool, I think he came across a team that worked, that he got no injuries. When you have Suarez, Sturridge and Sterling, you have Gerrard and Henderson, you have no injuries at all season, and you finish second. It's a good season for Liverpool, but it could have been better. But he stumbled across it. He fluked it. He then sold Suarez. He spent God knows how many millions of pounds on players that just weren't good enough. 20 million on Lovren, 22 million on Lallana, 25 million on Markovic. These players just have not worked for him. And you've got to think that he hasn't kicked on, he hasn't progressed. So, I think it's the right decision.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. And even when I heard the possible rumors were starting to come out, I was like, well, let's be honest, Liverpool, they've been playing okay, but they haven't done anything fantastic this season. And like you mentioned, they've had so many great players on their team that Rodgers has had the opportunity to work with, and they've never been able to fully win the big game, as we would say here in America. They never won the league. They never won Champions League. They never asserted themselves as a giant in the European football world the last few years. Traditionally, we know Liverpool is a very well-respected club. We know that they're very capable of wowing their fans. However, with Rodgers being at the helm, it was just not the right guy, I feel, as you mentioned, his lack of transfers. And I find it interesting that Liverpool apparently has a transfer committee that they vote on who they go for. Is that correct?
There's, as you guys probably all know, Liverpool are owned by was it J.W. Henry, who owned the Red Sox baseball team. And they were the guys that, after Billy Beane did what he did with the Oakland A's, they wanted Beane to come and be the guy to take the Moneyball aspect to the Red Sox. Obviously, Beane didn't go, but the Red Sox still embraced the Moneyball philosophy and went on to win a World Series. And they've kind of lived by that with Liverpool. They're looking at players that should be filling the gaps, i.e. they're trying to use statistics, numbers, figures, using the Moneyball technique in football. Now, I'm a huge fan of the whole sabermetrics. I'm a big Football Manager fan on a computer game on the iPad and on the PC.
Sure,
big fan. And using statistics to fill gaps. Now, Liverpool used the committee to scout players, but also they looked at players that were available to them that could do the job immediately. They didn't look at where they could develop them, where they could bring them through. And Brendan Rodgers, who's the youth team coach underneath Jose Mourinho in his first stint at Chelsea, who was playing with youth players, bringing youth players into the reserve team, wasn't really given the opportunity to coach. He was given players to fit square pegs, round holes. And it happens a lot in football. It happened with my beloved Tottenham Hotspur, and it's happened with Liverpool. And the manager, who's at the top, he said, right, you've had £200 million over 2 years. What have you got? Nothing. We've got Jurgen Klopp, who is, you can say, he's the German Brendan Rodgers.
I was going to say, is he any better from what they're looking at?
Well, I mean, you got to think. I mean, Germany is two football. Germany's one football club. It's Bayern Munich.
Yes.
Bayern Munich buy every best possible player in Germany from all of their rivals and win everything. Mm-hmm. And Klopp did well with Dortmund, but at the moment you've got Thomas Tuchel, who took a year out, that's taken over from Klopp. He's doing well at Dortmund, but you had the guy last season whose name escapes me, did well at Wolfsburg when they finished second because they had the better crop of players that season. Mm-hmm. Is he all that? You never know. Same as you could ask the same question about Pep Guardiola. You know, he got a brilliant Barcelona, he's got a brilliant Bayern Munich. Give him LA Galaxy or give him Seattle Sounders or give him Scunthorpe Athletic in the Football League and see if he can do the same job. I'm not sure. I think what Liverpool need is to not look at changing the philosophy.
Okay.
They need to if they bring in Klopp, it's going to be the same thing. Similar sort of manager to Rodgers, likes to bring through players, likes to play the game, as it were. He's not really what Liverpool need. If Liverpool want instant success, they need somebody like Ancelotti, who's currently available as well. He would be a better fit now than Klopp.
No, I'd agree with you on that one. I feel like if Klopp doesn't sign for Liverpool, I feel like he'll still find a new home because a man with that reputation, his name, I feel will find a new home sooner rather than later. And I know that Liverpool has already released that they have reached out to Klopp.
They have reached out, but I mean, Klopp, I think there is talk that Guardiola is going to leave Bayern at the end of the season, and that Klopp is the man that Bayern want to take over from Guardiola. So perhaps they're asking the questions, listen, is Pep going? If he is, then he's probably going to come to the Premier League, most likely to Chelsea or Manchester City. Klopp will take over at Bayern Munich. There is a chance that he'll do that.
And German soccer would be thrilled by that, I feel.
Oh, of course, yeah. And then Klopp, at 2-3 years of success at Bayern, will automatically then take over from Joachim Löw after the 2020 World Cup or the 2018 World Cup. Sorry, I'm looking at 2020 Olympics as well. Yeah, I'm all over the place.
There you go. You're looking very far ahead. Okay. I do have a question, though. We've mentioned Klopp. We've mentioned Guardiola. Is there any outside chance at all that Jurgen Klinsmann gets to coach in the Bundesliga at all, ever again?
Well, Klinsmann's been in the Bundesliga. He's been manager of Bayern Munich and failed miserably.
Yes, but do you think he'll ever get a chance to do it again?
Jurgen Klinsmann was offered the Tottenham job before Andre Villas-Boas, when Harry Redknapp left.
Yes.
The Tottenham board said, we want Jurgen Klinsmann, former player, etc.
Yep.
But he won't leave the US. I think his family is settled in the US. He was commuting from the US to Germany when he was doing the Bayern Munich job and when he was the German national team manager as well. He was doing that commute. And the reason why he never stayed on after the 2006 World Cup was because the German board said, we need to kick on now. The plan is in place. He was never the man. He was always the focal point, the face of the German national team. Löw was the guy doing all of the hard graft underneath him, and Löw's now reaped the rewards from the team that he's developed to win the last World Cup.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So will Klinsmann go back to the Bundesliga? I doubt it. Will he ever manage in the Premier League? I doubt it. I think he'll stay exactly where he is, and once he finishes with the US men's national team, he will probably take a highly paid MLS manager's job. I would imagine the Galaxy or the Red Bulls or somebody. The Galaxy more likely because he lives in California.
That would be interesting, going from Bruce Arena to Jurgen Klinsmann as the new Galaxy coach. Something to think about. I don't think Bruce Arena is retiring anytime soon, but that would be interesting to see if it does happen. All right, well, Simon, before we let you go, I want you to highlight a few of the games that maybe made fans happy or sad this last weekend in Premier League action. I know for me, I was thrilled that my Arsenal team grabbed a 3-0 victory over Manchester United. They were up 3-0 after 25 minutes, and the wheels just kind of fell off for United this last week. Alexis Sanchez continuing to play really well, but what were your thoughts on that ball game?
Well, I'm not the biggest Arsenal fan in the world, being a Tottenham fan. We're very vicious rivals. But the wheels were always going to come off at Manchester United. They've not been playing very well all season, but Arsenal, again, have had a very turbulent time. They beat Tottenham in the League Cup. Then I think they lost in the league, and then they go and lose in the Champions League against Olympiacos at home. Then they come out and beat Man United 3-0. No team has really settled down. Man City started the season brilliantly, but then got absolutely tonked by Tottenham last week. But then they came out and scored got Aguero 5 goals in 20 minutes, almost as good as Lewandowski.
Yeah.
To beat Newcastle 6-1 at the weekend. So the league is incredibly close. It's starting to, we're a quarter of the way through. 8 games have been played.
Mm-hmm.
Man City, Arsenal, Man United are occupying the top 3 spots. Palace, Leicester and West Ham are starting to dip off. But then you've got Everton, Tottenham, Southampton, Liverpool right behind them. So the league is starting to settle like a pint of Guinness. It's, the cream's starting to rise to the top and everything else is starting to settle at the bottom. But the big results from the weekend, Chelsea losing at home again.
Yeah, 3-1.
Southampton.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
being 1-0 up as well.
Yeah, I was very surprised by that for sure.
Yeah. You've got Sunderland, who were 2-0 up at home to West Ham, surrendering the 2-0 lead and walking away with a 2-2 draw. And then Dick Advocaat, the manager, resigning.
Yes.
So he was the first manager to leave a Premier League job this season.
Mm-hmm. And he willingly did it too, didn't he? He was like, all right.
He resigned. He when he took over at the end of last season, he said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to keep him up and then I'm going.
Yes.
The wife doesn't want me to take the job. He did such a good job that all the fans said, we want you to stay. So he signed a 1-year contract. And then the board never backed him in the transfer market. So he said, no, I'm going. So maybe Jurgen Klopp will see Sunderland as a bit of a project and go there instead of Liverpool.
Ooh, that would be interesting to see how that would work. All right, well, the last games that were really there was a few surprise games like we mentioned, but aside from that, how did your Spurs do before we let you go?
No, we got an away draw to Swansea, 2-2. Christian Eriksen scored 2 fantastic free kicks. Check him out on YouTube.
Okay. Sounds good. How is Tottenham looking going into this next game that they've got?
We are unbeaten. Next game is Liverpool at home. We've got the international break coming up, but since we lost to Man United on the opening day, we've not lost a game in all competitions apart from Arsenal in the League Cup. But we've got the internationals are coming up, the final round of qualifiers for Euro 2016. So maybe I'll catch up with you in a week or so and we can see who's qualified.
We would love that. I would appreciate it if you could do that, Simon. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. No, great to be on and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, Simon. Same to you. Simon Mitchell, our European soccer insider, a great guy that knows pretty much everything there is to know about the Premier League. A great opportunity getting to speak with him. And he did a great job of helping us recap the latest action that has taken place in the Barclays Premier League, going on with Brendan Rodgers being sacked and also some of the exciting fixtures that happened as well over the weekend. Well, it is time for another edition of the Baxter and Grant Sports Show to sign off. Special thanks to David Kenyon of Bleacher Report and Simon Mitchell stopping by and shedding some insight on what was going on today in the world of sports. We talked mostly about the NFL, but we also did hit on some soccer there at the end as well. So thanks for tuning in, for watching us on Periscope and on Spreaker.com, for listening. Remember, you can get us Monday through Friday from 7 to 8 a.m. Central live on Spreaker and Periscope. You can also get us from 11 to 1 p.m. Central on SportsRadioAmerica.com, live 365, and tune in and on demand anytime you want on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com. And if you'd like to interact with us on social media, we love hearing from you guys, so please keep interacting with us. We love it. You can get us on Facebook at The Baxter and Grant Sports Show, on Twitter, BG Sports Show, Instagram, BG Sports Show, and you can follow Grant at Grant's Ranch BGSS, and you can follow myself at Baxter Colburn. Thanks again for tuning in. We will see all of you tomorrow for a Hump Day edition of the Baxter and Grant Sports Show. You're not going to want to miss it. A lot of exciting things coming up, some special interviews, and of course, the Baxter and Grant Sports Show Power Rankings are coming out tomorrow. Don't miss it. Enjoy your Tuesday afternoon, everybody. See ya!